South Korea, the year 2000. A land of promised serenity, where ancient traditions intertwined with the rapid pulse of modern life. Gangwon, a picturesque province nestled in the green embrace of mountains and washed by the crystalline waters of the Sea of Japan. Here, in the tranquility of the countryside, where the air was perfumed with the sharp scent of pine and the sweet aroma of rice fields, lived the Lee family. The head of the family, Lee Jeongsok, a respected entrepreneur known for his honesty and foresight, his wife, Park Sun-ja, a loving wife and mother, the embodiment of Korean devotion, and their two children, the joyful daughter Minji, who was 10 years old, and the modest son, Jeonho, who had just turned 7. They seemed the perfect family, the embodiment of the Korean dream, a shining example of prosperity and harmony. But beneath the veneer of this idyll, a secret lay hidden, a shadow that inexorably loomed, ready to engulf them all in an instant. Imagine an autumn morning, when the sun, piercing through the golden foliage, gently touched the roofs of traditional Korean houses, drawing intricate patterns on the thatched roofs. In the Lee family's home, there was the usual yet so warm and familiar bustle. Park Sun-ja, humming a soft melody, prepared a hearty breakfast, filling the house with the aromas of freshly baked rice and spicy kimchi. Children, brimming with anticipation for school, were gathering at the building, while Lee Jeongsok, smoothing his impeccable suit, prepared for another workday, completely unaware of the trials ahead. Nothing hinted at trouble. It was the most ordinary day, which, as it seemed then, would last forever. Soon after the children went to school, Lee Jeongsuk, bidding farewell to his wife, left the house, heading off to his tasks. The sun shone brightly, birds sang their simple songs, and nothing foreshadowed the impending tragedy. None of them, not even Lee Jeongsuk, could imagine that this fleeting encounter would be the last. In the evening, when Lee Jeongsuk returned home, an ice-cold silence met him. A deathly stillness reigned in the house. The doors were locked. Dinner, carefully prepared by his wife, was cooling on the table, but neither she nor the children were there. Lee Jeongsuk, suddenly gripped by all-consuming anxiety, felt his blood turn to ice. He called everyone he knew, relatives, friends, acquaintances. Phone call after phone call, he heard the same thing. No one had seen his family. In a panic, with his heart ready to leap from his chest, he went to the police. Thus began a story that shocked all of South Korea. A story full of mysteries that still lacks a definitive answer. A story interwoven with fear, despair, and hope, leaving only fragments of memories of that very ordinary day. The police, upon arriving at the scene, began a thorough examination of the house. No signs of forced entry, struggle, or violence were found. Inside, everything looked as if the family had simply gone for a walk and would return at any moment. In the living room, 2 cups of unfinished tea stood on the table, as if the owners had only stepped away for a moment. In the bedrooms, clothes hung neatly in the closets, personal belongings lay in their places, as if the owners would be back soon. All this suggested the family had left of their own accord. But to where and why? The first group of investigators immediately began searching for the missing people. Neighbors, friends, and numerous relatives were questioned. Bank accounts and phone records were carefully examined. Nothing suspicious was found. The Lee family, consisting of 4 people, lived a quiet and peaceful life. They had no enemies, and it seemed no financial problems. The police put forward 2 main theories. Either the family had been the victims of an accident or they had been kidnapped. Large-scale search operations were undertaken in the surrounding areas, but not the slightest trace of the missing, nor any bodies were found. Time relentlessly marched forward, and the case remained stagnant, plunging into the darkness of the unknown. Amidst a rapidly escalating public outcry, as each news report sprouted ever more rumors and speculation, a team of seasoned investigators specializing in particularly complex and convoluted crimes intervened in the investigation. They began a meticulous examination of every available detail, as if striving to uncover a tiny, barely perceptible thread that could unravel this sinister mystery. All available materials were scrutinized, from the crime scene reports to the testimonies of witnesses. New witnesses were interviewed, and numerous expert analyses were conducted, all designed to shed light on the events. One of the initial theories the investigators considered was suicide, but the complete absence of a suicide note or any indication of preparation for this tragic act rendered this version highly improbable. Another equally discussed possibility was abduction for ransom, but no ransom demands ever surfaced, and all of the Lee family's bank accounts remained untouched, further complicating an already tangled situation. Soon, unsettling rumors began to spread throughout the area, whispers of a possible curse, a family curse, weighing upon the Lee family. South Korea, with its deep roots in tradition and a belief, had always been susceptible to such mystical tales, capable of capturing imaginations and sowing fear in people's hearts. Locals whispered of otherworldly forces, of evil spirits unleashing their wrath upon the unfortunate family and taking them away. These rumors were fueled by the inexplicable disappearance and the absence of any trace, as if the family had vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, the media, like predatory birds, flocked to the story, inflating it to unbelievable proportions. Newspapers and television channels vied for sensationalism, publishing ever-new versions of events, frankly, exploiting the tragedy. Some journalists, hungry for ratings, even put forth the craziest theories, including alien involvement. This, of course, added spice to the case, but at the same time, distracted from the real search for the truth. During the investigation, several unusual facts were discovered, further complicating the case, plunging it into a vortex of mystery. For instance, not long before the disappearance, Lee Jeongsok, the head of the family, purchased a huge plot of land in the mountains, several hectares in size, which he planned to use for building a country house. The police found out that the plot was located in a rather remote area where, according to rumors, ghosts were said to roam, and the strangest phenomena occurred, stirring the imagination of the local residents. Furthermore, in the Lee family's house, like ominous premonitions, strange symbols were discovered, drawn on the walls as if someone was trying to convey a message. Experts, racking their brains over this puzzle, could never determine their origin and meaning, leaving the case even more nebulous and mysterious. These symbols only added fuel to the fire, fueling rumors of a curse and otherworldly forces hovering over the case. During the investigation, information surfaced about Lee Jeongsok's connections to several influential figures. Their names were whispered in the corridors of power and business, hinting at their possible involvement in illicit operations. The police meticulously investigated these individuals, but alas, could not find any compelling evidence confirming their connection to the disappearance of the Lee family. Despite all efforts, The case remained fruitless, yielding no results. The investigators were completely stumped, as if lost in a labyrinth of riddles. The deeper they delved, the more new questions arose, like the tentacles of an inexplicable octopus. It seemed the Lee family had simply vanished, dissolved into thin air, leaving behind only a bitter reminder that not all secrets are within the grasp of human understanding. Time passed, and public interest in the story gradually waned. The mass media turned its attention to other more relevant topics that captured the public's imagination. But for Lee Jeongsok and his relatives, this tragedy became an eternal, unhealing wound for which there was no cure. They continued to hold on to the belief that one day they would learn the truth about the fate of their family. Years passed, and the case of the Lee family's disappearance was archived. It became one of the most mysterious and unexplained stories in the history of South Korea. The case remained open, but hope for its resolution dwindled with each passing day. But what truly happened? Where had the Lee family vanished to? Were they victims of a cruel crime, a tragic accident, or something even more mysterious? One of the most probable theories that investigators considered was that of a meticulously planned crime. Perhaps the Lee family fell prey to the cunning machinations of organized crime, or found themselves caught in a web of a terrible conspiracy. Maybe they knew something they shouldn't have, or witnessed something they weren't supposed to see. Darkness shrouded the case like a thick fog, hiding the truth behind a veil of riddles and speculation. Another theory suggested the family might have fallen prey to a sect or cult. South Korea has a vast number of religious sects, enticing new members with promises of spiritual enlightenment and escape from earthly concerns. It was quite possible the Lee family had succumbed to the influence of one such sect, and its members decided to retreat into seclusion, or perhaps even commit mass suicide. Of course, one could not dismiss the possibility of a simple accident. The Lee family might have perished in a traffic accident, a natural disaster, or another tragic mishap. Or perhaps they were victims of a crime that was meticulously planned and skillfully disguised as an ordinary accident. But despite all these theories, none of them could explain all the details of the Lee family's disappearance. The absence of any signs of struggle, the complete lack of suicide notes, the absence of any clues, all of this made the case even more mysterious and inexplicable. Personally, I believe the case of the Lee family's disappearance is one of those that will forever remain a mystery. There are too many questions and critically few answers. Too many secrets lurk within the shadows. In the land of morning calm, where family ties intertwine with invisible threads and public opinion holds immense sway, the disappearance of an entire family is a tragedy that echoes through the heart. This case touches not just personal destinies, but also the cultural foundations, the very psychology of Korean society. In Korean society, especially in the provinces, the family is the foundation upon which life is built. It offers a person's support, protection, and a sense of purpose. When a family vanishes, it signifies the loss not only of loved ones, but also the loss of a part of oneself. It's a deep psychological trauma, capable of haunting a person throughout their entire life, like a silent phantom. Furthermore, in Korean society, the fear of judgment reigns supreme. People are afraid of deviating from accepted norms and rules, fearing exclusion from society. This leads to many victims of crimes, particularly women, preferring to conceal their suffering without seeking help from the authorities. Regarding the Lee family, perhaps public opinion exerted immense pressure. Maybe a family member concealed a dark secret, fearing judgment and gossip. Or perhaps someone knew the truth, but was afraid to share it. Ultimately, the story of the Lee family, Disappearance, isn't merely a tale of missing persons. It's a narrative of complex human relationships, of tormenting fears and bright hopes, of boundless love and treacherous betrayal. It's a story of how a single tragedy can forever alter the life of an entire community. Despite the efforts of investigators and the whole community, the case of the Lee family's disappearance remains open. It has become a symbol of an unsolved mystery that will likely remain unsolved. This story reminds us that the world is full of riddles, and not all secrets are within the grasp of human reason. Try to imagine what the last day of this family's life might have been like. Morning, breakfast, the children busily prepared for school. Laughter, whispers, and the usual morning bustle familiar to every family filled the air. But on this day, something went wrong. Something subtly shifted, a heavy premonition hanging in the air. And for more than 20 years now, we have asked ourselves, what exactly happened on that fateful day? We can only guess, trying to reconstruct events bit by bit, assembling a mosaic from fragments of memory and rumors. Perhaps the truth was swept away by the swift current of time, eroded, erased from the face of the earth. Perhaps it will forever remain buried in the dark depths of memory, or even beneath the earth, hidden from human eyes. But one thing can be said with certainty. The story of the Lee family will forever remind us how fragile life is, how easily it can be cut short. It will serve as a reminder that even in the quietest, most peaceful corner of the world, the strangest and most chilling of secrets can hide. The disappearance of the Lee family is undoubtedly one of the strangest and most inexplicable mysteries in the history of South Korea. It has long since transformed into a legend, passed down orally from generation to generation. Hundreds, thousands of people still ask themselves, what exactly happened that morning when everything went wrong? And perhaps someday, someone will find answers to all the questions that still remain unanswered. For now, we can only sympathize with the Lee family, their relatives and loved ones, who to this day do not know what happened to their dear ones. We can only remember that even in the most prosperous and flourishing society, a dark side lurks capable of consuming any family. The role of the mass media in this story cannot be ignored. In South Korea, as in many other countries, the media plays an important role in shaping public opinion. They can either assist a crime investigation or hinder it. In the case of the Lee family, the media contributed to fueling interest in the case. Newspapers and television channels churned out various versions of what happened, often based on rumors and speculation. This led to the case accumulating more and more details, which in the end only confused the investigation. On the other hand, the media played a certain role in preserving the memory of the Lee family. Thanks to articles in newspapers and magazines, the public did not forget about the missing people, and this may have put some pressure on the police, forcing them to continue the investigation. Exhausted and morally depressed, investigators were forced to return to this case time and time again, sorting through old evidence and questioning witnesses. However, on the whole, the role of the media in the disappearance of the Lee family turned out to be more negative than positive. Instead of assisting the investigation, They contributed to the spread of rumors and speculation, distracting attention from the real facts and making people believe the most unbelievable versions of what happened. In conclusion, I would like to emphasize once again that the case of the disappearance of the Lee family is not just a story about missing people. This is a story about human connection, about our deepest fears and brightest hopes. It's about love, capable of enduring any hardship, and betrayal, powerful enough to shatter everything. It tells how one tragedy can alter the life of an entire community, planting seeds of distrust and fear for years to come. For it's a story about how important it is to cherish every moment of your life, every smile, every day lived. It's about caring for loved ones, valuing every minute spent together, and remembering that not all mysteries are within human comprehension. Imagine a sunny day in the warm spring month of May, a perfect family of 4, their cozy home filled with laughter and love. And then, suddenly emptiness, an instant disappearance without a single trace. And now, for over 20 years, silence has endured, broken only by timid hopes of a return. Only questions, endless questions. What truly happened to the Lee family? A mystery that will likely never be completely solved. We will only be left to guess and speculate. But this enigma will forever remind us of how fragile life is, how easily it can be extinguished. Even in the quietest, most forgotten corner of the world, the strangest and most terrifying secrets can lie dormant, waiting to turn everything upside down. Within such a mystery, perhaps, lies not only the tragedy of a single family, but also a reflection of all of human nature, with its fears, weaknesses, and relentless drive to understand the unfathomable.